the Storm Tracker Podcast.
All right, Storm Tracker Podcast here. I am Marcus Benjamin here with my guy Frank Tucker, representing for CanesCounty.com, part of the Rivals Network. And we had some breaking news pretty much all day today. I mean, it's just been coming in flurries here. When it rains, it pours. Murphy's Law, whatever you want to call it. It's just coming like a landslide right now. The first thing that kind of broke today was finally the OC, the offensive coordinator. Looks like we got one in Shannon Dawson. This guy comes out of Houston, air raid offense. It's really kind of the offense that most Hurricane fans were hoping for with TVD, who excelled under Rhett Lashley. So this possibly could be Rhett Lashley offense 2.0. So I'm excited about the hire when I kind of saw his background and what he could potentially bring. He's coming from basically the group of five. I think Houston is still group of five, right? Yeah, they're group of five, and those teams do more with less. And I think that is something that the Hurricanes will be doing because when you look at this team, I still think there's a lack of depth when it comes to the skill positions. And I think if somehow this guy can utilize the players that we do have on this roster and really kind of just accentuate their talents, then I think Miami has potential to really be successful this season. Your thoughts, Frank?
I like the hire. I think Hurricane fans are getting what they've been wishing for years. In the article, we kind of put some stats in there on the history of the Miami Hurricanes quarterback position. No quarterback has ever thrown for 30 touchdowns in the history of the Miami Hurricanes football program. The last time quarterback threw for over 3,500 yards was Brad Kaya. The time before that was Bernie Kosar in like 1980, 1984 or something, right? So we've never seen a high-octane passing attack. I don't think that the running backs are necessarily a great fit for what Shannon Dawson does. Mark Fletcher is more of your Josh Gaddis type running back. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how it fits. Chris Johnson is definitely the fit for that air raid offense. Really good receiver out of the backfield, a lot of speed. You can use him in jet sweep situations, inside zone, outside zone, try to get him out in space, right? I like the fit for TVD as well because we've seen Dawson work with quarterbacks that are not necessarily dual threat guys in the past. Geno Smith, Nick Mullins. There's been a few examples, right? And they've had a lot of success under Dawson. We've seen him have multiple 4,000-yard seasons, both on the Power 5 level and Group of 5 level. He's been under guys like Dana Holgerson, who have had a lot of success as an offensive originator of the air raid offense. They all come from that Mike Leach coaching tree, which we know puts up huge numbers, and we know that Miami needs to do something on offense, and this is maybe the change that helps turn the tide for Mario Cristobal heading into year 2.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a step in the right direction, especially with TVD. I think TVD has a tendency to lock in on receivers. I think the previous offense more it's more of a pro style. I thought it was like more of a pro style offense where you kind of go through your progressions. This one is it's kind of a quick read offense. Like, you more than likely that first read is open, and then you hit that read. And I think TVD benefited in that type of offense with Rhett Lashley throwing for records, like you said. So I think this is definitely what the South Florida wide receiver wants to hear as well, because let's be honest, Miami didn't do a great job of recruiting the wide receiver position, especially down here in South Florida. Yes, you got two of the primetime playmakers from South Florida, but there was a lot of meat left on the bone when it came to receivers that they could have got even in the transfer portal as well. Miami kind of struck out there as well because no receivers from the transfer portal committed to Miami. And, now with this offense, I think it becomes more appealing to the modern day wide receiver, the receiver that's out there playing 7-on-7 every weekend, which is, kind of typical kind of air raid type of offense. So I think this is definitely going to benefit the wide receiver room overall. I think a guy like Xavier Restrepo really benefits in this type of offense. I think a guy like Brashard Smith really benefits in this offense. Jacoby George, I think, really benefits in this type of offense because these are guys that can make plays in space, and that's basically what this offense could potentially do. So I'm excited for the wide receiver room and the potential for them in this offense because they didn't look too good last year. And yeah, they do have to catch the ball. I mean, that's what you do, right? Wide receiver has to catch the ball. They struggle with that as well. But the next step is, Frank, wide receivers coach. It's still a vacancy right there because I believe Shannon Dawson is going to be the offensive coordinator and the quarterback coach, from what I understand, which I think is great. I think those two positions should be married under one person. But wide receivers coach, are we bringing Gaddis back or what?
No, I'm hearing rumors on James Coley. I've heard some people talk to James Coley. He's kind of went a little bit radio silent on a lot of people about this, rumored to be interviewed around a week ago. I think it's a fit. Whether he's hired as the tight ends coach with an exit of Stephen Field or as the wide receivers coach, I think that he probably ends up coming back to the Miami Hurricanes. He is an ace recruiter. He is the guy who can come into South Florida and go get top dudes.
Yeah.
Like Shamar Stewart was a guy that he was the lead recruiter on. Nobody on the defense. It was James Coley, right? He's the guy that comes into South Florida and grabs kids. He did it at Georgia. He's done it. He's done it at Texas A&M. And with this offense, I love where the transition in recruiting is going to go. We know that there are the Jeremiah Smiths. We know that there are the Josiah Traders. Those are the guys that it's going to be hard to go get. You're battling the best teams in the country. But we see so many undersized, explosive athletes at slot receiver positions throughout South Florida that Miami has to just kind of bypass because they already have too many guys with that skill set and that frame. You look at guys like Zay Flowers. Those are guys, that's a guy that Miami bypassed. Elijah Moore, another guy that Miami bypassed because how many slots can you take when you're only really utilizing one or two of them? With this offense, there's going to be a lot of 5-wide sets, 4 and 5-wide sets. You're going to see a utilization and a focus on the slots. That means the Rays. That means the Robbies. You talked about Xavier Restrepo. You talk about Brashard Smith, who we saw in more of a complex offense. It was a little bit of a tougher transition for him, seeing as he wasn't a true receiver in high school. We saw him play more quarterback than we saw him really play receiver.
Yeah.
So I love the idea of where this offense is going to go in regards to recruiting, because I think guys like Jose Leon, Dario Harper are two kids from Columbus that are high potential, high producers in South Florida are finally going to get a chance. We're going to see more and more of the 3-star to 4-star slot receivers that Miami may not have targeted before be part of the focus of recruiting classes. And I think, we talk about South Florida is a bedrock for receiving talent. Every year we see NFL receivers come out of South Florida that maybe we didn't talk about, right? Because they were undersized, right? They weren't this generational talent, 6'2", 6'3", 6'4" kid that ran a 4.40. But now I think we're going to see so much more South Florida talent be utilized on offense, and that's what makes me so excited. And I think that undersized running backs are going to be, a position that or a type of recruit that can be utilized in this offense. Like a guy like Isaac Brown, right?
Yeah.
Explosive, right? As soon as he gets the ball in his hands, there's a chance for 6 points. But if you're running a true power spread scheme, it's a little bit harder to put a guy in the backfield that, has to run into contact every single play.
Yeah.
That's why it was nice to get Mark Fletcher. But now hopefully we see an expansion of Mark Fletcher's game in this air raid type attack. But I think that it's going to open up horizons for this Miami Hurricanes program, especially with the way Mario Cristobal is able to recruit.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I hope James Coley is the guy. I hope what you're hearing is true. I think he would be a perfect fit for South Florida. He knows the area. He has experience. He's coached here before. I think it'll be a really easy transition for him, but we'll see. And we'll see in the next couple of hours because, things are just popping off so quickly. I mean, that Coley may decide, once he hears this podcast, because we know he listens to it, that he's going to come to Miami. So we'll see about that. What we also heard today is that Miami potentially have decided on their linebackers coach in Derek Nicholson. That's an interesting name. From what I hear, he is a top-notch recruiter, and he's really going to be a guy that is mainly going to be focused on recruiting the linebacker position, especially. So from hearing that, they may bring another guy, maybe a Cole, a linebackers coach. Could be a possibility, but from what I hear, he's mainly going to be recruiting South Florida. What have you heard on this guy, Derek Nicholson?
I actually got a chance to meet him. I got a chance to meet him this past season. He was down here for the Central Columbus game, and he came down and offered a bunch of kids on that Central squad. Randy Adarica. He offered, Stanquan Clark was already in the boat. They offered like several young defensive players for that Miami Central squad on that night. He's done a really good job of helping build that relationship with Miami Central. He's really personable. You saw Stanquan Clark come off the field. The first person that he would talk to was Derek Nicholson. So I think he's one of those guys. He's a younger coach in his 30s, played linebacker at Florida State in the late 2000s. He's a guy that's moving up the coaching ranks. Interesting enough, he had just kind of accepted a job at Cincinnati like 3 weeks ago, like a little over 3 weeks ago.
That's what we do. Miami, we pause on people trying to go somewhere else,
Yeah. Sorry to Tulane, sorry to Cincinnati, but you guys aren't Miami. We're going to take your guys as soon as you hire them. Thanks for doing the vetting process for us. That's right. We're just going to take that now. The background check's already been done by you guys, so we don't have to pay that. So, but no, man, I think Derek Nicholson has done a good job at Louisville. Louisville has been a place that South Florida kids have gone for a long time, and he's been there for a little bit now. Just the fact that, he was part of that recruiting staff that brought in the Will Fowles, brought in the Qatar Hicks, brought in the Stanquan Clarks, and was heavy on Ruben Bain. Like, people want to say that Ruben Bain was a lock to Miami. That was an interesting recruitment until some coaching movement really happened, including Nicholson. And he's a guy that is a young star in the coaching ranks. And I think that Mario Cristobal and Dennis Smith, who has been integral in being part of and making helping make the decisions on this coaching staff, they're fond of him. They're fond of him, and we know that they've exhausted all aspects of the coaching ranks. They have looked deep. I don't think Derek Nicholson even came up as a candidate for the linebackers coach job under anybody. And it's not the typical splash hire that you would expect out of the University of Miami. So I think they went after the guy that they wanted, a guy that they felt like could recruit South Florida, a guy that they feel can relate to the kids as a younger guy, a little bit of a change up from Charlie Strong. Even though we've heard great things on how Charlie Strong related to the kids, I think that getting a younger coach who has done it as a player in the state of Florida is a nice change up on this coaching staff.
Yeah, will be interesting to see how he pairs with Lance Guidry, the new defensive coordinator, who's already sending out a bunch of offers out of Louisiana. So it looks like we're gonna have a potential pipeline coming from that area, which is great. I mean, that is the area where the great Ed Reed and the great Reggie Wayne are from. So there's definitely talent in that area. So interesting. It will be interesting to kind of see how Guidry, makes his stamp in recruiting in the South, the deep South, I guess you could say. And now Derek Nicholson getting acclimated to South Florida, and we're going to need him to recruit at a high level in order for Miami to be successful. So, the last breaking news coaching wise was Kevin Smith, the running backs coach from the University of Miami, apparently is going back to Ole Miss. This is a guy from South Florida, went to Southridge, went to UCF, played in the NFL for the Detroit Lions, went to then started, of course, coaching at Ole Miss, and decided to come back home to coach the running backs last year, brought Henry Parrish also back home with him from Ole Miss, and helped to recruit local running backs Chris Johnson and Mark Fletcher. And now we're hearing that he is potentially going back to Ole Miss. Now, we've heard a lot of different things about Kevin Smith. Some people liked him and some people didn't. Let's just be honest. And there was some friction between him and Thad Franklin. Thad Franklin obviously no longer with the team anymore. He's actually in Louisiana Monroe, I believe, is where he landed. And now Kevin Smith is now departing. So it's interesting just to hear. We kind of thought, you and I, Frank, that could be a possibility. I mean, basically, everything's on the table these days, right? I mean, I think Cristobal is probably the only one that you can say will be here in 2023. But all the coaches they've kind of been questioned if they were going to come back, and now we hear this news today. Your thoughts on Kevin Smith departing?
I think Kevin Smith did a solid job while he was here, right? There wasn't a lot for him to work with. There was, Jalen Knighton getting in trouble, right? Jalen Knighton getting hurt. Henry Parrish getting hurt, right? Thad having his issues with Kevin Smith. You lose Don Chaney for pretty much the entire year. You lose Trevante Citizen for the entire year in the first scrimmage. It was just one thing after the other for Kevin Smith. Yeah. At one point, the offensive line is completely in shambles. His guys are running behind basically nobody, right? It was tough, but I still think that there are positives, to come out of his 1 year tenure, his 1 year coming back home. Henry Parrish, really showed some bright spots. I think that, he showed that, he can develop guys as the year goes on, because Jalen Knighton looked completely lost with fumbles, and then towards the end of the year was starting to look like Rooster of old, right? Yeah. But I think overall, you got to thank him. He was part of the process of both Mark Fletcher and Chris Johnson. So he grabbed two blue chip running backs during his tenure. I think that he's probably going to go back to Ole Miss and do really good things. Him and Lane Kiffin have already worked together at FAU and Ole Miss. So there's some familiarity there. And I think that Miami is going to bring in a rock star running backs coach. There are some very few positions where they're going to be recruiters. Right, there's going to be some guys, some spot, the running back spot, the linebacker spot, arguably your tight end spot. Those are really spots where you need guys to be ace recruiters, right? And I think that they're going to bring someone in that's going to be a rock star running back coach. And I think that they've already proven in two different classes that they can go get top running backs. Trevante Citizen, a 4-star running back. Mark Fletcher, a 4-star running back. Chris Johnson, a 4-star running back. They went and got Henry Parrish from the portal, right? Like, they're able to go get guys under Mario Cristobal. And I just see that continuing, whether that's Kevin Smith in the building or not in the building.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's unfortunate to hear that another coach wants out, though, Frank. It's alarming.
But was it that he wanted out, right? That's always a question, right? Because
Yeah.
we heard this with Frank Ponce, right? Did Frank Ponce want out, or did Mario tell Frank Ponce, listen, man, I appreciate everything you've done. There is no pathway to you being the offensive coordinator here at the University of Miami. If you want to take that offensive coordinator job, you better take it, right? Kevin
Yeah.
Smith, you're on the hot seat, right? We had the 7th most fumbles in college football this year. Let's just be frank about it, right? Our leading rusher had 670 rushing yards this year. Nobody ran for double-digit touchdowns, right?
As
The
you just
production,
said, they were decimated by injuries. I mean, you just said that.
absolutely. But I don't necessarily. You got to question, right? Is it guys leaving Mario Cristobal, or is it Mario Cristobal having a realistic conversation with his coaching staff,
Yeah.
right? Select guys on the coaching staff and being like, maybe this isn't the best spot for you, right? And I think that Mario is starting to navigate through his coaching staff after the first year and saying, I need certain guys in here that are going to have a work ethic, the same vision as me, right? Doing everything that I need them to do so that we can get to the level that we want to. I think we saw last year, it was home run hire after home run hire, right? You got a Broyles Award winner and Josh Gaddis, right? You went and got a defensive coordinator that multiple times has been nominated for the Broyles Award, right? Kevin Steele, one of the top defense coordinators in college football for a long period of time. Nick Saban just poached him, right? And then you see him go get Jamel Adai from Georgia. We go get Kevin Smith, bring him back home from Ole Miss. It was a lot of who's who names. Now, This time around, he's just going to get guys that he feels are the best fit. We're going to get an offense coordinator from Houston that has been fired after 1 year at Kentucky. That means that it's a fit for Mario Cristobal, even if he maybe missed out on a Jason Candle, right? He went to go get the guy that maybe wasn't the press conference winner, but maybe the guy that he feels like can put this offense over the top. Lance Geiger had just got poached to Tulane from Marshall, has never coached in the Power 5 ranks. That means that there had to be an in-depth evaluation of what he can do as a defensive coordinator. That means that he's not the biggest splash hire, but he went and got his guy. So I think Mario is navigating through the steps slowly but surely, to finding which guys he really wants here and what guys really want to be here and not just be part of the Miami Hurricanes to use this as a stepping stone job.
Right.
I think you got to give Mario credit on that. The same way we gave Manny Diaz credit on that for firing coaches after a bad year, like the Dan Eno situation and stuff like that. I mean, we got to give Mario credit here for what he's doing with the coaching staff, because I think he's filling it with guys that fit what he wants to do and guys that are going to be grinders and okay with that 13-hour workday, 6 to 7 days a week.
Yeah, I think there's two things here. Like Miami, everybody knows about Miami, right? And Miami is one of the blue chip programs, and everybody kind of knows about the history, championships or whatnot. But for the young kids and for the younger crowd, Miami's trying to prove itself. And I think these coaches that he's brought in are coaches that are looking to prove themselves. And like you said, I think they are grinders and they are going to grind hard to prove that they belong. And essentially, that's what Miami's trying to do. They're trying to prove that they belong. And maybe the coaches that were here previously, like you said, already had a reputation, don't really have to prove much. They can get another Power 5 job. I'm sure Gaddis can get another Power 5 job. Steele obviously already has another Power 5 job. And same thing with Kevin Smith and Frank Ponce could possibly, get a Power 5 job as well. But there is still concern, I guess, with all the transition, because one of the things that we said was wrong with this team last year is that, it's a new system. Oh, it's new coaches, bunch of new players. People are trying to buy into the culture. With all these changes, you're going to run into the same problem again. So I don't think this is going to be a 1-year fix, because these kids particularly have to buy into a new culture, new schemes, kind of just a new way of doing things, new personalities, and I think it's gonna take some time for them to really kind of transition to this new culture, and then ultimately these coaches have to produce. There's no wait and see for these coaches. I think they have to produce in year one. You can't see another 5-7 season. You're hoping that doesn't happen. So if we do, what are we going to say? We're going to just blame it on the same thing. The coaches are not a fit, schemes are not a fit, and then we're on the same hamster wheel again, where we're going to fire half the coaching staff and hire new coaches. I hope that isn't the case, but there's nothing telling me yet that this is going to change on a dime here. It's going to take a while, I think, for them to really kind of build the culture up and build this recruiting class up, which is sitting at one kid, and he's a kicker. So these coaches have to hit the trail running like pretty fast here, because especially with junior day coming up, they have to make a really good impression. First impressions are usually the most lasting. So we'll see how it happens. But when you go through these coaches, let's go through them one by one, Frank. Like, let's start with Frank with Josh
Shannon
Gaddis.
Okay, Josh Gaddis.
Start with Josh Gaddis. Do you think Cristobal and him had a parting of ways, or he wanted out?
I think there was definitely a parting of ways there. I think there was
I
think there was a parting of ways behind the scenes in more ways than one, right? I think that was a situation where there was no reconciliation, right? I think that, right, they were looking for an out, they found their out, right? And that's it, right? Not going to speak on it too much, right? But
right. We're not going to
that's it. So he was out, right?
Opinion. Yeah. So and then Frank Ponce, I think he wanted
mutual,
out, or was
I think mutual parting. I think it was a mutual parting of ways. I think it was a friend telling a friend, because remember, outside of coaching, these guys are friends. These guys are from Miami together. They're around the same age. They coach together at FIU. They've known each other for decades, right? I think it was a friend to a friend being like, Frank, right, this might not be the best fit for you, for what you are, for the path you want to go down. Maybe it's best for you to go look at another avenue, right? Gotcha. And I think it was a mutual parting of ways. I think it was a friendly reminder of, listen, man, you want to eventually be a head coach. You're not going to do that just being the quarterback coach at the University of Miami, right? So I think that was a mutual parting of ways.
Totally agree. Kevin Steele,
I think the writing was on the wall that his role was going to change, right? I think that Mario wasn't. I'm sorry.
To what? You like an analyst?
I think they might have. I think that there was rumors going around that he was potentially going to be taken out of the defensive coordinator role. That was nothing definitive. That's not coming from the University of Miami. But I think that Nick Saban came after missing out on, maybe his first one or two options at defensive coordinator, and him starting to just bring in his guys, as we're starting to see him do with his coaching staff, right? And I think that Kevin Steele was like, I don't really want to continue down this path of unknown, right? And I think that he probably left on his own. I don't think that Mario fired him. I don't think it was a situation where he was forced out, because he went to Alabama. He's the defensive coordinator at the University of Alabama, right?
Right.
You don't get fired from the University of Miami and then just go to University of Alabama and be the defensive coordinator under Nick Saban, right? As they're going for a national championship. So I think if any of the guys that have left, other than Charlie Strong, who I'm sure we're going to talk about next, right? Yeah. That was probably one where he left on his own. He saw a really good opportunity, and it was like, I'm going to take this, Mario. Listen, we're going to go our separate ways, but I found my gig. Good luck to you.
Yeah, that was going to be my thing with Charlie Strong. Charlie Strong is the one where he was like, you know what? I'm out.
Yeah, he's like, hey, the quote is super telling. The quote that he gave the day he left is super telling. they went another direction. That means I have to go another direction.
Right.
Hey, that was like the Geno Smith, like I didn't write back quote, right? Like it was like, all right, Charlie, you got some cojones on you, you know? You got some cojones. And listen, man, I think that I think he wanted that DC job. I think he wanted that DC.
Light in the background is blinking. I don't know what's going on.
I don't. I'm sorry. It's spazzing a little bit. Is it better now?
Yeah, good.
But I think that he was in a position where he wanted that defensive coordinator job. He was named the co-defensive coordinator last year. I think Mario Cristobal, from what I heard, there was communication last year that once Kevin Steele was no longer in that position, or they moved away from Kevin Steele, that he would be the first guy in consideration for that job. That's not what happened. So they ended up going with Lance Geiger, who everything I've heard about Lance Geiger is that he's a superstar coach. I don't know about recruiting. I don't know what he can do as a recruiter because we've never seen him recruit on a Power 5 level. So he's never really recruited 4- and 5-star guys. But I've heard as a coach, just schematically what he can do, it is going to be an upgrade for the University of Miami. I heard that he is an excellent teacher, that he's someone that the kids absolutely relate to. We've seen videos of him being an absolute monster in the locker room, getting everybody going as a motivator, which I think Mario Cristobal probably loved. I felt like that was a home run hire, right? And now for the offense coordinator side of things, before you touch on Charlie Strong, I think it's a plug-and-play scheme, right? You were talking about you can't go 5-7 again. Well, we know that Mario Cristobal is not a play caller, right? He's not a guy. He's a culture builder. He's not a Lincoln Riley who's coming in with an offense that is just going to come right now and boom, 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 you win with a quarterback.
Sure.
I think he's bringing in the guy that you can do that with them, right? If you have some quarterback talent, if you have some speed, right? You got some 4- and 5-star kids in the offense, and now you've built out the trenches on the offensive line. He might be able to come in and just automatically do what he did at West Virginia, where it was 500 yards a game. Geno Smith plug and play. But now you got a guy in Lance Geiger who we know can lead the defense. They seem to be building out the defense in a way that fits what they want to do going forward. And I think that the coaching staff is filling out in the right way. I think that Mario Cristobal, instead of trying to win the press conference, is trying to win his football team, and he's doing just that.
Yeah, I agree. Charlie Strong definitely strong-armed his way out of here. He wanted that DC job that wasn't offered it, and rightly so. I think he decides to depart. Kevin Smith is the last guy, really. Do you think it's a mutual parting of ways going on there, or he wanted out?
I think that he saw an opportunity to go back to a comfortable situation with Lane Kiffin.
But you're saying that this wasn't.
I think it was his choice. I don't think he was comfortable here. I don't think he was comfortable. I think the recruiting, right, with the Chaminade situation kind of got out of hand on him. I think that the running back room outside of Henry Parrish was a little bit in turmoil in a large part throughout the year. I think that it was supposed to be a homecoming, right, where there was that honeymoon phase, and he never really got that honeymoon phase. And I think he's a guy that wants to move up in the coaching ranks. I mean, he went from FAU to Ole Miss, right? And then it seemed like he kind of plateaued when he came to Miami. There really wasn't like that path to moving up. And I don't know I think he was a little bit on the hot seat this year based on kind of the things that were going on behind the scenes at the University of Miami. And I know, like we talked about the things that were going on that was going against him with the offensive line, injuries, stuff like that. But still, production matters. Results matter. And if he didn't get the results this year, which it would have been a little bit tougher for him to do in probably an air raid scheme, I think he kind of was like, the best thing for me to do, wife is still in Oxford. Let me go back to my family back where I was. Lane Kiffin already values me. I'm going to go there. I'm going to do my thing. Maybe I move up into a co-OC role. I think he left same way, not same way as Charlie Strong, but I think he left kind of like a Kevin Steele type of way.
Gotcha. I totally agree with everything. that you said as far as the coaches, if they were mutual parting of ways or they wanted out. Um, Potentially, we could see some more from what we're hearing. There could be potential for some analysts parting ways close to home. Could be maybe the defensive backs coach Jamil Adai. I've heard that that's a possibility from what I've heard. Nothing concrete, but that is. But I think everyone else is good to go though, right? Joe Salavea and Rob Wright, are they still going to be Miami Hurricanes in 2023?
I think that there's still some questions on the defensive line, right? I still think that there are still some questions at tight end, right? Hey, listen, we're gonna put all the information into our message board.
Coach Field is recruiting out there though. He's recruiting hard.
Yes,
so is Kevin Steele, right?
Yes, but remember, Stephen Field's not a Mario guy. I know that they have some familiarity, together because Coach Stephen Field was a head coach in South Florida for several years.
Yeah.
But Mario's going to want to bring in his guys, especially after last year. Mario ain't going down just easy. He's not going to go down easy. And I'm hearing some names at wide receivers coach. I'm hearing some names at defensive back coach. And, there's a lot of fluidity that's going on with this coaching staff. And I think Mario targeted the February dead period to do just that because, like you said, March 4th is the junior day, right? Where there's going to be a ton of prospects from around the country in Coral Gables, the same way we've seen at the Legends Camp, the same way we saw at the Elite Prospect Day last year. It's got to be the same thing on March 4th. And I think that's where you're going to start to see the 2024 recruiting really pick up. You're going to start to see some clarity on which guys are starting to shift towards Miami. Remember, we saw that first wave with like Jaden Rashada and guys like that. I think you're going to start to see that towards the end of the spring, same way last year. But listen, we got some tidbits that we're going to put into the message boards whenever our rival sites get back up. So we do have some information on who the potential wide receivers coach can be. There are a couple of candidates that I'm already hearing about. There is some potential movement at defensive back. We're also going to put that in the message boards. So please jump on those message boards. Subscribe to that Canes County site. You get a month free, right? Still, we still got the 1 month free.
1 month free with promo code Miami30, CanesCounty.com for more on recruiting the Miami Hurricanes football team, the basketball team, which is balling out of control. Myself and Michael Yero, we've been putting together a lot of great content when it comes to basketball. Really like this team, really excited for the future of this team. I think this team could potentially make it to the Final Four. I think they're that good. I think they're that balanced. They don't really have a lot of weaknesses when like last night. Was it last night? Yeah, last night when they were playing North Carolina, Norchad Omier got into foul trouble, couldn't really play a lot. And what happens? Someone else steps up. Jordan Miller steps up. Nigel Pack, Isaiah Wong. And also shop the Isaiah Wong collection at bluechipteam.com. He's got some great apparel that you can shop on our website. But you can go straight to their website, bluechipteam.com, hoodies, t-shirts. He's just a great kid overall. Wrote a nice story this morning that posted this morning about a contract that he signed in middle school with his mom that he credits to his success. So a lot of great content that we'll continue to bring to you. And today I want to tell you, Frank, I had my first Mark Light milkshake, bro.
My God, you had it without me.
Yes.
Oh my God. You did it without me.
Yes, sir. I did, bro.
How was it? What flavor?
It was amazing. It was Columbus. It was Columbus flavor. I don't know why they call it that, but it's basically like an Oreo cookie. It was like a McFlurry almost, but like a milkshake form. And it was amazing. It was amazing, bro.
You got to give me your 1 bite review, right? You got to do like the Barstool 1 bite review. What are you giving it? What are you giving it?
I mean, I think it was great. I would give it. I mean, I'm not big on milkshakes. I don't even drink dairy like that. You know what I'm saying? I try to stay away from dairy because it doesn't always agree with me like that. But today I was just like, I'm doing this today. You know what I'm saying? Wifey's just gonna have to deal with me today.
Valentine's Day dinner is gonna be loud.
Yeah. That's a great way to describe it. But it was great. I think I give it a 9. You know, I give it a 9.
Nice, strong.
I think it was solid. I think the Oreo chunks was a little too chunky because some of them was kind of blocking the straw. Like
Never too chunky.
that was
Never
was
too
the,
chunky.
that was
That's
the
why you gotta
only
mix with the
issue I was
spoon.
having.
That's why you gotta be spooning it too, man. You
Yeah.
can't just have the straw. You gotta have some
Yeah.
spoon action with it.
Yeah, like the what do they have at Wendy's?
The Frosties.
The Frosties. Frosties come with the spoon. They give you the spoon because they know that you're gonna need
You
that
ain't getting
spoon.
nothing. You ain't getting nothing through the straw
But
with the
yeah, it was
Frosties.
amazing. It was amazing, man. I'm excited for this baseball team too, man. I mean, just as excited as I was for the basketball squad. A lot of veteran guys, couple of transfers. They seem pretty solid when it comes to pitching is concerned. They already decided on their pitcher for Friday. They open up at Penn State. I'm going to my first covering my first baseball game at the Light. So excited for that game against the Nittany Lions. It's Gage Zeal who will be starting on the mound, and really excited for Andrew Walters, who's their closer. Apparently, he's got some more stuff than just a fastball now. They've been working with him, and I got to see the locker room as well, the new locker room, and just posted a video on this YouTube channel, so you can take a look at that, as well as I posted all of the interviews from the dugout, as well as the press conference with the coaches, including head coach Gino Damari. So excited for the baseball team, excited for the basketball team, excited for the future of CanesCounty.com. More to come from myself, Frank, and the Euro Twins. Be sure to subscribe to the website as well as this YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. That's going to wrap us up for the Storm Tracker podcast.